Celebration of 50 years of hip-hop and 40 years of South African hip-hop is a landmark event that embraces the rich cultural heritage and global influence of the hip-hop genre. And the international festival, Back to the City, is all about celebrating the significant milestones achieved in the hip-hop movement, both globally and within the South African context. The festival, that is in its 17th year, is bringing the international act Mobb Depp. Well, the founder of Ritual Media Group, Osmic Menoe, is here to tell us more about it. Good morning. Good to see you. How are you doing?
I'm breathing in and out. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic. It's so good to have you in the studio. I mean, the fact that we're talking about 50 years of hip-hop is a milestone on its own. Talk to us about the reflection that you are having at the moment once you came to this realization that we're talking about 50 years.
I think for the fact that something that was born out of nothing, something that was born out of rebellion, something that was born out of creativity, something that was born from kids trying to figure themselves out and reflecting on the environment. And it has become this multi-billion industry that has changed lives, you know, including mine.
Yeah.
So for the mere fact that something like that, this hip-hop culture could be used as that positive tool, to me, it's still mind-blowing. I mean, the things that I could tell you that the culture has done for me and, you know, some of my peers, definitely mind-blowing. So I think it's a big milestone, you know, to say this year it's celebrating 50 years. Obviously, everybody's been seeing what's been happening in the States, and obviously here we're also celebrating 40 years, which means South Africa has always sort of been on the cutting edge for a long time. Because we're just shy of 10 years from the birth of the culture.
Yeah. Let's talk about Back to the City, because on its own as well, it's become its own institution. I mean, we're talking 17 years. You know, I feel like we've been talking about this for years, and it feels like it's a short space, but it's also a long time. Tell us a little bit about this year.
Well, this year we've, you know, hit our 17th year, and it's been an interesting journey because, you know, obviously one of the interesting times was during COVID, where we've had to sort of figure out new ideas. How do we, you know, bring this thing still to people while they're sitting at home? So it's been a lot of interesting challenges, but I think the beauty is seeing how it's grown since then, because you must remember when this started, it was a joke. Everybody laughed, and it was like, who would go to a hip-hop think about it, 17 years ago, why would you go to a hip-hop festival? Because who cares?
At that time, yes.
But because I think passion drove us, and I think purpose drove us, and for the fact that we could take all these different key learnings from what was happening in the States, and we just had that ability to say, you know what, in time it'll make sense. And then look at it right now, you know? Yeah,
and given the person that you're bringing, well, the institution that you're bringing Mobb Depp into Back to the City, who's you're talking about? Because I'm already thinking, I'm excited about it. But the generation that came after, would they be excited about a Back to the City that has Mobb Depp?
So the beauty about the festival is that it's not just a music festival, because it's a cultural festival. So the aim is to also educate. So hence you will have a person like Amu. I mean, Amu is one of the guys performing because he's celebrating 20 years of his album. And he's got Salvin there, he's got like all these old people there. But it's about the young kids need to understand where this thing comes from. It does not come from when Aries came in. But it's a good thing to also have Aries there. So literally it's looking at the whole spectrum, because, you know, we've got the latest acts for the young kids. But, you know, people like you, to leave your house, you need a very good reason. And I'm hoping the good reason would be a Mobb Depp and the second international act that we're about to announce.
And you can't tell us?
It's going to be a surprise. That's why I want y'all to come.
Yeah. Okay, so what other unique elements or surprises are you bringing in, apart from the fact that you can't tell us who the second hip-hop artist is? What other elements are you bringing for the festival?
So I think it's more what we've been doing. So we've been doing all these different workshops at the Hip Hop Museum. I'm sure some might be aware that we've built the South African Hip Hop Museum. So we've been doing these different workshops. I mean, just yesterday we did a workshop at the end we gave out like 10 laptops and 10 printers to like young entrepreneurs, and so there's been all these sort of conversations and all these different activities where we popping here and there. We're doing some school talks, some university talks as well, because that's the beauty about the culture. It's not just you get on the mic or you wiggy, but you also practice knowledge of self. So the big thing I think also over this whole 50 years and 40 years of SA hip hop is for people never to forget knowledge of self.
Yeah. And what are these conversations about? I'm interested in those conversations.
Because you must remember in the last few years within our culture we've had a big problem called depression, suicide, You've seen quite a few of our sort of big artists either committing suicide or going through these different anxieties, So we're talking about such things because, you might be seeing it on the bigger artists, but what you're not aware is that for quite some time it's been happening to the guys in the underground because of frustrations, So we, it's talking about such things. Obviously we try to bring some of our partners because once again people want to know, how do I get paid? So you bring a Hennessy marketing manager to say, well, this is how opportunities are, this is what we're doing. You bring someone from the government who says, hey, we've got sponsorship, we've got funding, we speak about that. And obviously the simple, music rights and, etc. So it's about that. But also preaching this knowledge of self. Because I think once a person masters this thing called knowledge of self, that's when a person finds that purpose.
And how does the advent of something, a genre such as Amapiano or a movement like Amapiano sort of put hip-hop on almost like a backseat? And how does hip-hop, South African hip-hop, almost come out of that and, survive? Because it's clearly something is happening that is that you guys are doing right, because 40 years in, we're still talking about South African hip-hop. But almost like Amapiano will almost overshadow it. How do you overcome something like that?
Well, it doesn't really overshadow it because hip-hop has actually been in the most beautiful space it's ever been. So just because you're not seeing artists being played on radio, those are the rappers, but you must understand, if you look into the industry, which people are getting all the big brand deals? It's all hip-hop people. If you look at who's Hennessy giving money to, hip-hop. Casalight, hip-hop. So big brands, that's where the money's going, and that should tell you a reason. Yes, their music is being played everywhere, but you must also remember, when you see an Amapiano artist from a distance, who does he look like? Like a rapper, right? Are they not starting to rap on their songs?
Somewhere in there.
That's the beauty about it. And we celebrate that. Someone like me, it's definitely embracing that, because yes, this is a thing exactly mirroring what hip hop is. Young kids in the hood trying to figure themselves out, trying to use the little that they can put together, and boom, it's changing their lives.
And how has the face of South African hip hop changed over the last couple of years?
I think self-sustainability has become an important thing, because for the longest of time, the struggle was real. But now a lot of us are able to actually sustain ourselves with all these things that we do, because if you think about it, a lot of us, in certain spaces, we're working on multi-million rand either contracts or activities. You look at what Casper and STC are doing right now, this tour across Africa. You look at what someone like an Emil, he's dropped like 6 books. Slicker just dropped a book, So there's a lot of cool, exciting activities. And I think we're also going through a rebirth of creativity. Because for the longest of time, everybody was just fixated on who's dropping the latest hot song. But then you forgot that there's the breakdancers, there's the graffiti. The graffiti guys are painting these big murals. Someone like a Faith 47 from Cape Town has an amazing book and accolades across the world, And to me, those are the different nods that says we're going in the right direction. Another 50 years on the way.
All right, Osmic, congratulations on 17 years. Thank you so much for talking to us. He's the man behind Hip Hop Museum, South African Hip Hop Awards, and the International Hip Hop Festival. Back to the city, Osmic, letting us in on this year's festival and the acts that will be on stage as the movement is celebrating significant milestones.